is Hare, so it's not one name. It's not one name, okay? I want to welcome you all to this Kenya IGF. I'm excited to be here. But what is more exciting is seeing the different people, the different faces from the ones I'm used to. I used to be very active in this space, and every meeting I went to the same kind of people. You see Ali, you see Victor, you see Fiona. But now I think I can only recognize about 10 people in the room, which is really, really good. It means the next generation of internet supporters is checking in and taking over. That is an excellent thing to do. So anyway, I'll call my panelists onto the high table, and it's very high. Jaco from UNESCO, Mr. Omari from KICTANET, and Fiona. And Victor. And of course, we also need Grace, please, on the podium. So I will moderate the session from down here. I don't like mixing with the names, so. Okay, so thank you so much for taking your time and coming to address this opening session. So we'll just go straight into the program, and I want to call upon Grace Githaiga to just give us quick remarks, opening remarks. I think just use the podium.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for honoring our invitation. My name is Grace Githaiga from the Kenya ICT Action Network, KICTANET. KICTANET is a forum, it's a multi-stakeholder forum that contributes to ICT debate, policy and regulation, and we have been around for since 2005. So we're actually doing our 10th year this year. And so, like Hare has said, one of the things Hare said is that this year we were able to dust them from the archives and get them back to the IGF. So welcome Hare and the rest who we've been able to dust and to come back. But also to say that I'm so glad to see new faces, and especially young faces. Because we keep saying this country must be taken over by young people. We know you are very, your minds are, willing to change, as opposed to some of us who are already there and we cannot be changed. So we hope that this will not just be a learning process, but it will be an opportunity for you to start taking over these processes. So why do we have an IGF? And for those of you who don't know, the IGF, the Internet Governance Forum, is an annual gathering that brings people together from various stakeholder groups to speak on an equal basis, to discuss public policy issues relating to the Internet. It was announced by the United Nations Secretary General in July 2006, and it therefore derives its mandate from the UN, which has given it power to convene and serve as a neutral space for various stakeholders. The IGF does not make decisions like other UN meetings. However, it is a policy forum that enlightens and inspires decision makers. Additionally, it is a space that affords developing countries the same opportunity as the developing ones with equal opportunity to engage in various internet issues. So the IGF provides that space for dialogue where interested actors can take up an issue without any fear. And then, for example, in the Kenya IGF, at the end of today, we will discuss what are our issues. They will go into the East Africa IGF that's happening in September. And from there, the 5 East African countries will also come up with what are the IGF, what are the internet issues in the region, and they will be, they will be taken over to Africa IGF, and that will then be distilled into the global IGF in November. So even if the IGF is not a policy-making body, it does allow for very honest discussions among stakeholders, where information is shared freely, good information that some organizations have to pay to get consultants to give them. And then, we also share best practices. And as you know, Kenya has actually been ahead. We have convened, is this our 7th or 8th IGF? So we were the first country to convene a country IGF after the UN mandated it. So really, like we say, we have bragging rights, and we still need to maintain that. So I think I've said that. So this year, we have several themes. And like you can see in the program, some of these things have been determined at the global level. We realized for us, like we have the issue of net neutrality, and I am sure it will be still in some of our discussions because that's an issue for us, although it's not being listed. So we are very glad that once again we have started going back to what the IGFs used to be. We have various stakeholders, Victor representing the government. We were expecting the ICT secretary, but CS, but as you know and as you read yesterday, there are issues with the land ministry, and he's having to deal with that with the security operators. But we are glad that Victor is here. For those of you who don't know, Victor is the CEO of the Kenya ICT Authority. We're also very glad to have KICTANET. KICTANET, they will talk more about what it is that they do, but they manage the country code domain .ke. So I am sure when Omari will speak to us by the end of this, a lot of us will have been bought into changing from .com into .ke and to be patriotic and support us. So thank you very much. UNESCO has also supported this meeting, and we are very glad that UNESCO has continued to work with us. Fiona from the Telecommunications Association of Kenya, we're also very glad because these have been partners of the IGF, providing internet every time, free internet whenever we have a session, but also fulfilling that multi-stakeholderism that is supposed to happen in any IGF. So, karibuni sana, and I am hoping that we will have very stimulating debates, that we will come up with fresh ideas, that we will continue, we will contribute to new ideas that will actually distill into the other processes that I have spoken about. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Grace. You can clap. Okay, so keywords here: multi-stakeholder, policy formulation. Kenya being one of the first countries to host the national IGFs. Then later, I think we catalyzed the East African version of the same. So Kenya has bragging rights as always, and we want to continue that. Now, multi-stakeholder engagement, so all voices count. So these seats here are not reserved. So you can come to the front. Come to the front and fill the seats, please. We don't want anybody, let how much can use the seats at the back, but let's fill the seats in the front. Please. Do you want me to go next? All voices count. So So our next speaker will be Jaco from UNESCO. Please give a quick introduction about you and what you do before you go into your presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Hare, for giving me the floor. My name is Jaco Toit. I'm Communication Information Advisor in the UNESCO office in Nairobi, covering 13 countries. And I work in the media development, ICTs and its application in education, science and culture, and what we call infrastructures, libraries, archives. And I've been in Kenya for 3 years now, and I've worked in Southern Africa, in Northern Africa, and in the Middle East, and also now headquarters in these different fields. It's a pleasure to be with you today. UNESCO feels that the IGFs are extremely important. Reason being all the keywords that were mentioned earlier by Hare. So it is important that we have this multi-stakeholderism and that we bring everybody together to talk about internet and its issues and how it influences our daily lives. Internet is a powerful tool, as we all know. Here in Kenya, I think also with the internet penetration rate, there are specific issues that come to mind, and we are keen to see also what are the issues and that you feel are important, so that we can bring it to the East African region, so that we can bring it to a global region, and so that we can form part of the global agenda when we look at the internet. So for UNESCO, internet governance is a central issue. The organization acknowledges the potential of the internet for fostering sustainable human development and building inclusive knowledge societies, and also for enhancing the free flow of information and ideas throughout the world. And we've seen through the KICTANET discussions, I think that all these issues actually came up and that are relevant within the Kenyan context. The UNESCO, the organization, advocates for an open, transparent, and inclusive approach to the internet and internet governance based on the principles of openness, encompassing freedom of expression, respect for privacy, universal access, and technical interoperability. Ethics is also a very important element that needs to be taken into account, together with cultural and linguistic diversity in the cyberspace that we feel are key cornerstones that need to be included in the issues discussed relevant to the internet. Permit me also to highlight just 3 issues that came up from the 9th Internet Governance Forum in Istanbul, in Turkey. And the first one is related to internet governance and development. This is specifically important as this year we will look at the Sustainable Development Goals, and Goal 16 looks specifically at ICT and its role within the development agenda. So what does Kenya feel is important within that realm? I've already highlighted the elements that are important for UNESCO, the principles of openness, privacy, diversity, universal access and interoperability, and freedom of expression that needs to be taken into account. Security in the internet, I think, is another issue that came up also during these discussions. Cybersecurity is one of the problems of our time. A number of conventions have come to play to look at the question of cybersecurity. Also here in Africa, the African Union Cybersecurity Convention, I think that was also a matter of discussion on KICTANET, and I think maybe it's also an opportunity to bring out a consolidated approach to what Kenyans feel are important elements where this address by the African Union makes steps to the forefront, and maybe also where it impedes on some of the principles that I highlighted earlier. So it is extremely important for us that we look at these issues. Of course, the question of internet infrastructure is also important at all levels, and I think it's been proven that countries producing more digital content are also those that have quite a good internet infrastructure, and that it does play a role to which extent we have such a good internet infrastructure. And I think on the high table there are several people that are present from the internet infrastructure side, and I think we are looking also forward to your interventions. When we look at the policy considerations, we must think of content development, we must think of expanding connectivity and innovative ways of doing that, and promoting internet access and competition, of course. UNESCO's position on the internet flows from the organization's constitution, which commits itself to mutual knowledge and understanding of peoples through all means of mass communications, and to promote the free flow of ideas by word and by image. And we are keen to listen to your ideas on how we could have this mutual knowledge and understanding by using new technologies, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Jaco, for those opening remarks. And again, when the whole discourse of internet governance started, I think the questions that were being asked was, so this whole distributed network, how do you govern it? Because it's not like one person controls it. There's so many stakeholders. There are many players in it. But at the same time, it cannot be left on its own devices, because there's so much into it. All our businesses now depend on it. All our stuff is in the internet. So the stability of the internet in itself is so important to the world that people were like, they started asking questions. So how, we can't let this thing just run. And that's when now the discussion about how do we govern this. But govern it in the sense that we want it to remain as it is, but also stable. Not governance in the sense of trying to control it or trying to guide its development. So, but now the discussion is even getting more complicated and more evolving, because now the internet has become like, if you control the internet, or if you have access to the internet, you have access to economic development, you have access to political power, and all these things are just rotating and coming together in the internet. So it's a really, really important resource that we all need to get involved in making sure that there's fair play on it. Now I'll call in Mr. Omari from Mechanic to just give us his opening remarks.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm happy to be here this morning. First of all, let me sign to the protocols. The CEO of Victor, Engineer Victor, sitting in the CS. The CEO of TESPOK, Fiona, Grace from KICTANET, Jaco from UNESCO. Participants, thank you for hosting me this morning. My name is Abdallah Omari. I'm the General Manager of KENIC. KENIC, as you have been told, we manage the .KICTANET. It is your property, so we manage it on behalf of Kenyans. Those ones who know us know that KENIC is a PPP, that's public-private partnership. On the board, we have the government, which is represented by ICTA, Victor has someone who sits on the board on behalf of the government. Then we have the ICT private sector, and the ISP is represented by TESPOK. Fiona has someone, she's seconded to the board. We have KICTANET for the education sector, we have represented by Professor Yole. And we have the registrars represented by Drake on the board. So that's the formation of KICTANET. I think when we talk of the internet, the facilitating factor in the internet is you have to start the domain for you to blog, for you to have a website and so on. So we are this low dormant where you have to clean your feet before you enter the room. So that's us. Secondly, as Grace said, KE consumption has been a little bit low, and we have planned in the next 3 years to move to a mark of 1 million. So I think I'm talking to the right people here. And let us try to ensure that we compete South Africa. South Africa is at 1 million. And we, as the people who usually live within the East and Central Africa, kindly support me to reach the 1 million mark within the domains. I've been having various discussions with other players because at the end of the day, the ICT should support business and the wellness of people. I had a discussion with the export promotion zone. They said what they usually do is try to get export market for SMEs. But the challenge they have is they approach someone at, let's say, Kikomba, someone who's doing some Jacos. So they get a market for that particular person, let's say in Europe. So they place an order for about maybe 10,000 Jacos to export. But the problem starts there. Because the moment you start discussing with someone in Europe or Yahoo, they assume, is this guy from China? So the communication, only 3 emails and the communication goes silent. So that SME ends up losing the market, which the export promotion zone has done quite a bit trying to create a market for you. But the moment you communicate on other domains, they are not sure if you are from Kenya because that's a quota they are given to Kenya. And you need to communicate from the KE domain for them to know that actually this business person is doing that. So it has been a challenge. They told me last year they got quite a bit of orders, but only less than 5% of those orders were furnished because 95% of the beneficiaries started communicating on other domains, and the market outside, the moment you do that, they're not sure if you're doing something okay. Yes, I want to tackle a question which has been asked in most forums about the challenge we had in February. So I'm preempting that question before. See the moderator laughing. It's nice that they've done it for me. Yes, we had a KNSF challenge in February. It broke. It was because the signing keys were changed. From our point, it's automated, but from the ICANN point, it's manual. So ICANN, in their responsibility, the moment they don't recommend our key, they started refusing accepting our communication at that point. So it broke down. We are back on the NSF. So our supporters in the industry who usually say, why are we not back? We are back. We got back last week. But as always said, South Africa, which has a 1 million domain, they are not on DNSN. So be a little bit kind to Kenya. We have been brave enough to move on DNSN. South Africa have not up to now. And I think all can affirm that they are not on DNSN. We are, thankfully, for the vision approach. Jaco is in the hall. He started it. He's a retired soldier of Kenya. So I've addressed that issue. I hope I don't get that question. But I'll clarify further. So I decided to talk about the challenge we had. Lastly, not to take a lot of time, because I can see Grace looking at me. All of you are invited to visit me at Kenik if you have issues. Grace came to me a few days ago, and she said I have to chip in, and I had to do it. She appeared there and I did it. sponsoring this forum. So if you have an issue, we have an open door forum. You see me. If you can't, you can see Fiona, TESPOK, the seat of the board. You can see Victor, the seat of the board. They talk to me from the board level. And also participants like Ali. Ali has been on the board of Kenya. You can approach him if you are approaching me. And he just press a call and ask me, Omari, why are you not addressing this issue? Lastly, why I need you guys to key when you are hacked. If it's another domain, the communication will be very complicated. And I can see CA is here. They will tell you. But if it's a .ke domain, if your website is on .ke, you do a letter. If I'm not responding, you storm my office and say someone has placed interesting, not very interesting pictures on my website. I want it sorted out. And I'll do that. Or through the other representative going here. Engineer Victor, one message I would like you to take to the minister. We have been having a lot of litigations between the ICT community and the ministry. So my proposal is, can we form a multi-stakeholder arbitration team between the ministry and the private sector ICT players, so that we don't wash most of our life into the papers. If we have issues, we approach that arbitration team to sort it out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omari, for those remarks. And I was not going to ask you that question, but it's okay, you answered it before I asked it. But I think I like the target. I like the target of 1 million .ke domains. I think that's a good achievable. I think it's achievable. Probably one of the things that you and your team could do is possibly team up with the company registrar. So every company that is registered gets a domain. Just saying. Okay, so now we'll call Fiona from TESPOK. And thank you, Fiona, for your sponsorship.
Good morning, everyone. I was asked to give a brief bio of myself and not assume that everyone knows me, because there are very many new faces. I will start by saying who Fiona Asonga is. Fiona Asonga is the CEO of the Telecommunication Service Providers Association of Kenya. You can't hear? Yes. Oh, okay. Fiona Asonga is basically the CEO of the Telecommunication Service Providers Association of Kenya that runs the Kenya Internet Exchange Point. We also run the Computer Security Incidents Response Team for industry. That's for the private sector and for those who be at the exchange point. Fiona also happens to be a member of the Number Resource Organization, the Numbering Council on behalf of Africa, and the Address Supporting Organization of ICANN on behalf of Africa. And I sit on the Public Internet Registry Advisory Council for .ngo, again on behalf of Africa. So, and all this is done as part of TESPOK's interest to be able to ensure visibility and that we are involved in what is going on the internet space, both locally, regionally, and around the world. So then, why is the IGF important to us? Why is the IGF important to TESPOK? I'll start by taking you back. Last year we had a meeting in Brazil called the Net Mondial. It was at this Net Mondial meeting where we were discussing whether the IGF discussions should still go on and how they should proceed prior to moving into the WISIS discussion, where we'll now be discussing how that internet governance discussion should then proceed. So this was a really multi-stakeholder meeting, first of its kind, that really was done by an agency in Brazil that is run on a multi-stakeholder arrangement, which I'm hoping that Kenya will be able to tag along, and TESPOK and KICTANET are having a discussion along those lines, because in Brazil, they have an office for engagement on internet issues, where now, apart from the ministry, there's an office where everybody, civil society, operators, everybody comes into, and they all sit in that one space and they all engage with one voice on all ICT issues. So TESPOK has been trying to, since then, work towards that. Why? Because the future of internet governance is along multi-stakeholder models, along a multi-stakeholder engagement. When you look at what is happening at ICANN right now, there is a transition of the key internet resources that are managed by IANA on behalf of the global community to get the US government out and to bring in a multi-stakeholder team to do that, to do what the US government has been doing. Why is this multi-stakeholder issue so important? Because we've reached a point in our discussions where we need to have the multi-stakeholder engagement happening within the internet discussion, within the ICT space. And from our point of view, post-Net Mondial, the things that TESPOK feels are important, there are some few principles that we feel need to be emphasized as far as internet governance engagement, activities, discussions are concerned. One that is very dear to TESPOK and has been for a very long time is the issue of protection of intermediaries. In our part of the world, we see intermediaries mainly as network operators. But we're also seeing change in this country, where intermediaries are moving from just the network operators to people who are offering other additional services that run on those networks, so they don't own the data. But they play a role in ensuring that there is enough material on that network for me and you to go in and look for it. Otherwise, if we didn't have these intermediaries filling in that space, yes, we would have the internet, we would have the networks, but to do what? There would be nothing to share. Apart from the private emails we send to each other, what else would the networks do? What has the internet done for us right now? It's done a lot. There's so much data there. There's a lot of data being handled and managed by different entities, and a large part of the data is not owned by the companies that are facilitating access of you and I to that data. Those are the intermediaries. There's a whole list of intermediaries that you can identify and look at. TESPOK feels that there has to be clear laws in all our ICT policies and regulations that protect the intermediaries. If you are going to put data, if the way the internet is going to operate in an open way, using open standards, and allow you as an individual to put your data there, then you ultimately have to be held responsible for that data. So yes, we advocate for open access. You can go in, put in what you want, but you need to be responsible for it. We advocate for rights. The ICT as a tool and as a basic right, but with rights come responsibilities. At the end of the day, we also want to ensure that there is security, stability, and resilience of the networks we set up. At the end of the day, we want to ensure that there is sustainable innovation that is being run and developed over the networks. So it's not just about being able to sit and say, yes, we have an exchange point, but what are some of the key things that you need to do that will drive the traffic of KXP up? Those are the principles that I'm basically mentioning when I say, yes, we need to ensure we protect the intermediaries, we need to ensure access, we need to ensure open and distributed architecture of the internet, we need to ensure a unified and unfragmented space is being developed. We need to ensure that there is security, stability, resilience, and we need to ensure that there is respect of persons. A lot of people talk about human rights, but they forget rights come with responsibilities. Yes, you're entitled to your rights, but you're also entitled to be working the space under shared values. We need to have shared values that we are able to apply in how we engage over the internet. And that is important. From a TESPOK point of view, and from an operator's point of view, we do sit with our members and we discuss, and we agree that it is not just about ensuring that we have the pipes. We have the pipes from Mombasa to Loki or to Malaba or Namango, wherever. We need to ensure that those pipes are well deployed, they are secure, they are running appropriately, they are reaching they're not just in the main road, but we're making a lot of effort to make sure that they reach to as far off the main roads as possible. There's been a lot of initiatives by both government and private sector to ensure access. And I'm sure that Victor will mention that on what they're doing in terms of reach. When it comes to North, there's a lot that has been done.
there are private sector investments along the North that are also ensuring access and reach. Last month, Liquid launched a major deployment for the Nyanza region, or western region of Kenya, so to say. Why is this? Because they recognize that there are areas of the country that are coming up and forming key communication hubs, so to say. When you look at the ICT master plan, what are some of the things that have been put into that document that are important in as far as the development of this country is concerned? And those become very important discussions that I'm sure we're going to have as the day moves along in ensuring that we have a fruitful discussion on internet governance in Kenya. Because if we cannot address the key principles of access, of net neutrality, of security, of protection of the intermediaries, we will leave this room having not fulfilled much, because I think these are important for us as a developing country. When we look at where we are at now, where we want to go to, we just had the GES summit last week. Out of that summit, it's standing out that Kenya's ICT innovations are really top of the game. But how many of us know about those innovations? What are we doing to make those innovations more visible? There's .me. That is one platform on which you can go on and you can have a me.Fiona, me.ke. And as an innovator, put all your stuff there and create visibility for your applications. We want to know. I'm in the industry. I still want to know how many of those innovations are really up there. We hear about things here and there where the media covers them, but I think we need to have a way of being able to recognize much more than we are recognizing in terms of the kind of innovations that are happening in our local space. I know that the students have something they do annually where they get awards, and when you go for the students' exhibition, you find a lot of stuff. But between the students and the other subsectors of the industry, what else is happening? There's a lot going on. So we need to be able to tap into that space and see what can be done. TESPOK is actually in the process of seeing how to organize a desk that will be able to manage that and to create visibility for the innovations, because it is important that we recognize where our strengths are. And innovation is turning out to be a key strength for us in this part of the world. Finally, I think in view of best practices, it is important for us to have the discussion on internet governance as a multi-stakeholder sitting like we are right now, so that we can be able to really find out which are the best practices that work for us. It is not good enough for us to look at what is happening in other countries, what has happened in Brazil, and try to copy, but it is more important for us to sit and look at our environment and say, we think this is what will best work for us. This is how we need to move for the next step, the next 1 year, before our next internet governance meeting. What do we need to have put in place? What do we need? What would we like to have as the outcome of this discussion at the end of today? I think it helps, in as much as Grace said, are not decision making for us, but I think for us, at the local level, it helps when we come up with certain areas that can be key deliverables that we can look at over the next 1 year to figure out, so what do we want to accomplish? And I think with that, I'm not going to say too much. I think I've already taken so much time. I'd like to hand over back to Hare and just encourage all those who are here today. Let us have an open discussion. Let us ask questions, pertinent questions that are going to help us in terms of strategy and planning moving forward, so that we are able to gain from having this gathering. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. As some people would say, you've spoken like 3 people. On top 10. Okay, thank you for those things. But I think the key things there is content. You can build secure, stable, resilient networks, but without appropriate content, usable content, what are you doing? Yeah. Then I also took up the issue of sustainable innovation. I think that's a good, it's a good thing. There's so much that can be built on top of the infrastructure that is already there. But are we doing it? Or are we building another application like the other application that it looks like the other application? So now we've come to where now we have our keynote address. And I can see Victor, Engineer Jaco, is ready. The thing about Engineer Jaco is he was one of the founding members of KICTANET. I don't know if you guys know, but he won't say that.
Okay, thank you, Hare. If I manage, good morning, everyone.